Greetings and salutations, guys. I'm here with my review of Avatar: Fire and Ash. This is the third movie in James Cameron's insanely successful sci-fi franchise, arriving much quicker than the gap we had between the first and second movie. And, once more, we're following the Sully family here. This movie kind of sets into motion with the character Spider and what will become of him. Is he going to stay with the Sully family or not? And a quest they go on with Spider that will bring them into conflict with the Ash clan, a much more nefarious, dark, violent group of Na'vi than any we've met before. The leader of the Ash clan, Varang, played by Una Chaplin, ends up joining forces with Quaritch, Stephen Lang's character, who is, the overall villain of this series, and the film basically follows this quest for Spider because he becomes extremely important, especially as he begins to evolve and begins to be able to live amongst the Na'vi in a way that no human ever has before. And now that makes him vitally important, but also vitally dangerous because humanity at large doesn't have a great idea about what to do with the Na'vi and Pandora, and the Sullys realize the threat this poses not just to them, but to everyone on this planet. I'm a big admirer of the Avatar series, and slowly but surely, it's been drawing me more and more in. I was one of those people who thought the first movie was just an astounding technical achievement, well worth seeing on a movie screen. Also was, pretty detached from the characters and the actual storyline, but the second movie grabbed me a lot more. And actually, when I rewatched the first two at home before seeing the third one, I was really impressed again by the second one. I just thought that it did go deeper with the characters. There was more emotion there, more depth, and visually, it was just unbelievable. Even though I think Avatar movies do need to be seen in a theater to completely get the experience of them, when I watched the second one at home on 4K, it still looked fantastic. This movie, though, this third one, is the first time where I feel like it's another Avatar movie. It's another Avatar sequel, but it doesn't really pop in the same way that the first two did. The first just by being something we'd never seen before, and the second by escalating the storyline, the tension, and the characters. This one, it does feel a little redundant. And yes, as Cameron has been talking about, the second and third movies were originally one movie, and the storyline grew, and he decided to split them into two. But there is a sense that we're going in circles a little bit here when you watch the second and third back to back. They do end up repeating some beats, they end up repeating some conflicts, even some battles with some villains, and it feels like, didn't we do this in the last movie in a really similar way? So for the first time, I think, in this series, it doesn't really stand out in the way the first two did. Now, that being said, technically, it's once again phenomenal. James Cameron operates at his own level, technically. And, I typically avoid 3D movies, and yet I say, yes, absolutely go see an Avatar movie in 3D, including this one. Uh, he just knows how to, really immerse you in a level that no one else, I think, can accomplish on that technical level when they're working with 3D and high frame rates and all these things that are usually off-putting. But when he puts them together with the eye he has, the skill he has, it really is impressive. And while he is a technically minded director, I think he also does have a lot of care with his characters. He certainly cares about them, and I think that does shine through. And there are some moments in Avatar Fire and Ash that got to me emotionally. There is a very key scene involving Jake Sully and Spider. That is, I think very effective. And, this movie is very much about fathers and sons and relationships. The Sullys are dealing with the loss of their son in the last movie. Now, Spider is this focal point because he is the biological son of Quaritch, but he has been raised by the Sullys. And so he's got these two dads sort of battling for him. And there's some nice moments involving all of that. At the same time, there are some sequences that I think, don't seem as tight as in the other movies. It's a little more meandering. Now, pace-wise, I think it still works. This is a very freaking long movie. And if you just are not into long movies on principle, yeah, you might feel the length, but I don't think there's anything with the way that the filmmaking works. I never thought this is dragging, but I did think in totality, I thought, we didn't need to spend as much time on that storyline. There is a subplot here about some of the Sully kids needing to go sort of on a quest to speak to more of those nice space whales from the last movie, which were actually one of my favorite parts of the second movie. But it feels like it's a little bit of padding there in a way that I don't think the first two movies had. Spider being greatly significant to the story makes sense, again, because he has so much significance as a child of two worlds. and the struggle for him both emotionally, but also the fact that what he means for the future here on Pandora. And I think that works well, and I like Jack Champion in the role, but it is a little weird as the movie goes on how it becomes very almost singularly focused on Spider, and I think we lose sight of some of the supporting characters, especially given, this is about Pandora and the Navi. And I think that, there are some of the Sully kids that I wish got more focus here or got to stay centered in a way they don't. The film is actually narrated by Lowak, who, is now tragically the oldest kid in the family because of the loss of his brother. So there is more focus on him initially, and yet at the end, it really becomes so much about Spider, and I thought that, oh, they kind of lost sight a little bit of Lowak here, and what his dynamic is like with Jake. I thought could have been more central, and maybe this idea with these two brothers that are not biological brothers but are raised together, and what that could mean. I thought could have been more integral to the ending of the film. But one place this movie really shines is in the villains. Stephen Lang has always been awesome in everything he's in. If you've never seen The Hard Way, go watch The Hard Way and watch him as the party crasher. Amazing performance. But he's great as Quaritch. He's always been great as Quaritch, but he gets a lot more to do in this movie, which is to say he gets a lot more nuance because we get to see some different sides to this character. There is a burgeoning relationship that develops between Quaritch and Varang, and we get to see a little bit of a more fun side to Quaritch in this film, while still not losing that intensity and that will and determination. And I just think Stephen Lang is really awesome at portraying all sides of that, and you really see him shine through. Again, the performance capture here, you always feel the actor's presence. It's never like I don't, those are just animated blue things on camera. Besides the fact that we know that it really is their movement that is embodying it all, I just think it does shine through, and that's gone from the first movie to the third one. And I really thought Una Chaplin was great here. It makes such a striking presence as Verhang. It feels like James Cameron was really determined to make people find her sexy, which is kind of amusing. But the way that she just sort of slinks into scenes, and she is so fierce and, forgive the pun, fiery in a way that you could see Quaritch would be drawn to. And the two of them are a pretty awesome villainous duo at the center of this movie. And they are maybe my favorite part of the film is that dynamic between the two of them. And there's awesome visual scenes involving the Ash Clan and battle scenes involving them, and their use of fire as a weapon amongst Pandora is very effective. But yeah, I did find the third act a little lacking, and I think it's mostly because it involves a final battle that feels pretty similar to what happened in the second one, except I think the second one wins out. Not just because it came first, but some of the things they did in the second one I thought were a little more clever. So even though James Cameron can almost effortlessly depict really clean, dynamic, exciting action and does so here, it just feels like the second has a leg up. Like there was just a little more to everything happening in that movie. And I felt like, oh, we're seeing a little bit of an echo of what happened in the second one. And I do wonder how much of that is a result of splitting the movie and almost feeling like we had to repeat some things and maybe keep some stagnant natures to some characters that I think should have evolved a little more. All of which is to say, I still think you should see this movie again, unless you've hated the other two Avatar movies. But if you have enjoyed them, even just on that spectacle level, you'll get more of that here. You will get an experience that I think is unlike any other. No one else is making movies like Avatar just on that scale and what they deliver. I wish this one felt a little more inspired. But it still makes me, it doesn't make me feel like I don't want to see more of this universe. And I know they're being a little bit more cagey. They're hedging their bets about, oh, maybe it'll just end here. I wouldn't be satisfied if it ended here. And some of that has to do with the way this movie ends and me feeling like we need to center it back into some characters that get a little bit pushed to the side here. But I also just think there is more to explore. And things that James Cameron said about where he'd go in a fourth and fifth movie, the idea of going to Earth finally, which presumably might involve Navi traveling out into space. I want to see that, I want to see things get mixed up even more. I didn't think the second one was in any way a repeat of the first movie. I think it did evolve things. This one is a little bit more running in motion. But yeah, still worth your time. Still a very interesting, sort of unique place in movie history, but also just a cinematic experience. I do like sort of sitting back for a few hours and immersing into Pandora. Yeah, it does sort of just deliver something that you don't get with your average movie. You know, even though it's going through the motions, it's going through the motions for James Cameron making an Avatar movie. So that still puts it on a higher pedestal than a lot of motion picture experiences. So those are my thoughts on Avatar: Fire and Ash, which obviously is going to be playing in a hell of a lot of theaters this coming weekend. It will not be hard to find this one. If you can like and you can subscribe, that would be great. Thanks a lot and take care.